This is K-Pop Sunday, brought to you by K-Pop Sunbae before you have to go back to work on Monday. We are your hosts, Onyx,
Min,
and JR.
Welcome to episode 19. Today we will be talking about names of K-pop groups. The good, the bad, and the pretty weird. And you might be like, why talk about just the names of a group and not about their music? Well, that is because most K-pop names have some sort of meanings. Sometimes it's because members' names were combined, like Kokosori, the duo made up of Coco and Sori. Sometimes it's an acronym, like BAP, which stands for Best Absolute Perfect. And other times it's just a vibe, like Saturday, the girl group, who is here to give you the vibe of the day Saturday. But be warned, this episode will be a bit heavy on the our personal opinions side. So if we say this group's name is kind of ridiculous, it doesn't mean that we don't like the group or the music, just that their name might be a bit susty. And if we don't like a group's name and you absolutely love that particular name, then that's awesome, because all this would be incredibly boring if all of our opinions were the exact same. So we love you, we'd love to talk about it, so hit us up on our Twitter or something so we can talk our disagreements out. Anyway, so let us all begin with some of our top tier, absolute favorite K-pop group names.
Okay, so the first one that I want to talk about is iKON. I've really liked that name since their debut, and I've actually followed them since their debut. And the whole meaning is that they will spread K-pop to the world, or something along those lines. I've seen some different translations. It's spelled with lowercase I and then capital K, capital O, capital N, and obviously the K in that stands for Korea. I also really like their logo because it takes the trigrams from the Korean flag, which I don't know how many of you have seen it. I'm guessing a lot of you. But there's obviously the circle with the red and blue in the middle, and then around it there are trigrams, or sets of three, either dashed lines or straight lines, depending on what it is, and those each stand for something. But they took it from the flag and they put it together for their logo, which I think is really cool. Their fan name is also iconic, which I also like. I feel like a lot of times groups, you can't necessarily tell what their group name is if you just hear the name itself. Like, it doesn't necessarily have a strong connection, but I feel like this is a very strong connection, obviously. But I think it's just overall a really fitting name for their group, and I think that's the goal when choosing a name, that it fits them and their style, and yeah. That's one I really like.
I like it. I feel like their group name, it can last for a long time. It's not one of those where, like, you age out of it.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of K-pop groups are, like, teen or something
Kid
young.
or something.
Yeah. Or it's about, like, a physical attribute that changed over time. So... Yeah. I think that iKON's one of those, like, clearly them being Korean isn't gonna change.
Right.
Them trying to spread K-pop isn't going to change. Like, that's what they're doing, and they're very successful at it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Had iKON not been under YG and been under some, like, low-tier entertainment, their name would not have worked out.
I know, unfortunately.
So
it's kind of egotistical in that sense.
Yeah.
It fits a group from YG. It's extremely YG.
Exactly.
It kind of reminds me, though, of... There was another group. I don't remember their name offhand. It was Global something.
Global iKON.
Oh, that's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just made me think about that. Hey, we're gonna take over K-pop, that sort of thing. And then they didn't.
Yeah.
But had they been in a different company with that name, things might have turned out differently. Although usually, though, if, like, a group flops, it's not like, ooh, the members weren't talented enough. That's more a problem with management and production.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is gonna kind of come out of left field. But I only know one DJ in K-pop because I'm not very familiar with DJs. The one DJ I know is J-Want, and I think that he's got a good name. Like, that's his stage name is J-Want, J.Want, which is very smart because his actual name is J-Won. It's like, very clever. So I do have to commend him. That's like a good play on his name.
It's cute. Mine, I'm a bit torn about because it's kind of dumb, but I also really appreciate it, even though they didn't really release a lot of music, is One Day, the group that both 2am and 2pm belongs to. or used to belong to. I like it. It's very cute. Their whole concept of being different times a day, with 2 a.m. being we're so emotional at 2 a.m. and for 2 p.m. it's so hot and you're so energetic. I don't know. It's kind of dumb. I like it.
I liked it too.
It's cute.
Something to contribute to this, because I didn't realize this, because I know a lot more about 2 p.m. than I do about 2 a.m. And I know that 2 p.m.'s fandom name is hottest.
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to say that. But then I was like, wait, I should also look up what 2 a.m.'s fandom name is. And their fandom name is I Am. So that when you put them together, it is I Am Hottest. And I don't understand why. It's just so funny to me. Oh my gosh. Why?
You know, like how I've got that thing where, like, when I'm naming something or gonna do something as a joke, I say, okay, what if, ha ha ha, and then
I know, yeah.
if someone else laughs along with me, I assume, oh, that must be good.
Yeah.
But that's literally how we named this podcast, our group name, as well as my intro. We're all dumb jokes. And also my nickname, Onyx. All dumb jokes that other people thought were funny.
So it makes sense that we like this one. That's all we're trying to say.
Yeah. We have the same sense of humor. We have the same sense of humor
JYP.
as...
Oh, that's bad.
I never...
We don't want that.
You know, that is such an epiphany. I didn't think about that. Except I don't think we do, though. Once again, going back to the whole geology thing, we would make a joke about geology.
It's true.
So technically, we are different, because we will utilize and we will joke to the max.
One that I want to mention that is a girl group is CLC. I got into them a bit after they debuted, so I'm a fairly new fan. But their acronym stands for Crystal Clear. And I've always thought it was a really pretty name, and I think the meaning is pretty too. But at the same time, I feel like it's kind of neutral. Like, it doesn't mean they're a cute group. It doesn't really mean that they're a lovely group, in my opinion. I feel like they can have the name meaning adapt to the concept they're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I feel like if they were in the 90s, though, I think that they definitely would have been a group like SCS.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, that sort of name would have totally have been popular back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But one thing is their fandom name is Cheshire,
Ooh.
and, like, the Cheshire Cat from...
That's
I don't know if
interesting.
that's something outside of Alice in Wonderland. I'm not well versed in cats.
Yeah, Cheshire Cats are a thing.
Okay, they are a thing. Okay, so there's
Yeah,
that.
no, they are.
As far as I know, their logo kind of looked like a cat, and that's where that comes from. So I guess there is a little bit of a meaning there and, like, connection, but for the most part, I'm not a huge fan of it. Like, I like the word Cheshire in itself, but I don't know how much it connects to CLC besides
They were looking
just
for
the
C
logo.
words.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So
There's some groups where, like, it's very clear that the management company was like, what begins with this letter? I don't know.
let's look through the
And it
dictionary.
was kind of like a scramble. So I want to talk about a girl group I like. I want to talk about Ladies Code, because I loved that name ever since I heard it. It was like, that's just such a nice name. And especially because, like, their whole idea of, oh, we're going to tell, like, women's stories, and it's going to be like, this is Funky Code, this is International Code. Like, they had, like, all these different nicknames for, like, the members and all these different things to sort of uplift women. And it just, especially through their discography and just the history of the group, they are just a really classy group. And I feel like that they really lived up to their name. But in the same vein, I'm also thinking of Girls' Generation, because how they debuted as, like, more of like a teen group, but then they grew and matured. So it was really sort of like a girl's generation, like them growing. Mm-hmm. So I felt like it was a really good fit for the name. Like, that was one of those that I didn't think of until recently. It's like, wow, that really was a really good name.
I agree.
So another group that, in my opinion, really lived up to its name, and I'm sure everyone agrees with me, After School.
Yes.
At debut, I remembered that everyone was comparing them to the Pussycat Dolls, which was what they were based off of. But then they very quickly grew into their own thing that was really different from the Pussycat Dolls. Like, how they maintained, like, oh, it's like sort of like school theme. Like, their debut song, Ah, is them with, like, school uniforms at, like, a school.
Mm-hmm.
But then they also came out with tracks like Bang, which I don't think another group could have done that who wasn't supposed to be, like, a school-inspired, but also, like, sort of maturing group. And especially because they did learn how to use, like, their own drums so that they could do it on live, which watching live performances, I think the actual song, it's called Let's Do It. And so typically with a live performance, they would come out on the stage with the drums. They would do like this whole drum line. And then the track would end. They'd, remove the drums. And then they would do the live dance part of Bang. And it was really cool. Like, that's not something you generally see in K-pop. So I love, even to this day, I consider it as one of the best concepts. I love it how even when a member left, they took advantage of that to say, oh, they're graduating. Yeah. Like, oh, they're not at school anymore because they graduate. Like that, those little details, I just really had a lot of respect for how much they kept to it.
The last good K-pop group name that I want to mention is MFBTY, which stands for My Fans Better Than Yours, because it's true. I love them so much. They're the only ones that can have that amount of a cocky name.
Exactly.
And get away with it. Yeah, that's my story. Goodbye.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like any other group you'd be like, are you kidding me? Why on earth? But it just works for them. Because in real life, they're not really cocky people. Like, if you see them on reality shows, they are so down to earth. They are so kind to the people on the shows themselves. So to have a name like that is just kind of, it's like, okay, I see you.
They need to release more music.
I know.
There's a lot of people who need to release more music. Speaking of which, Devil and Angel, one of my favorite duos in K-pop. They only released one song, but they played into their name so well. Like, the concept was that one girl would be wearing white, she was the angel, one of them would be wearing black, she was the devil, and their title track was called Bad Girl. And the song, though, was about how basically a guy leaves a girl, but then she improves herself for herself. And now she's getting, like, a lot of attention, and the guy wants her back. She's like, no. And she's saying, ooh, I must be a bad girl because I'm not giving you the time of day. I've moved on. Too bad. Ooh. Like, I want to kind of, like, I kind of am sad about you, but I'm okay.
The last group that I want to mention, and the last group of this section, is SHINee. And that means one who receives light, as opposed to something that gives off light, like you would think, because it's spelled SHINEE. And this is another one I've loved ever since I got into the group and I found out what the meaning was, because I feel like it's really unique and it actually makes sense, which can be really rare in K-pop, both being unique and making sense. But that's just K-pop. And yeah, I really like it. Also, their fandom name is Shawol, which comes from SHINee's world. And I also think that that's pretty cute. So that's one I wanted to end us off with. But Min, why don't you start us in the bad section, or what we perceive as bad?
So the one that I want to talk about, I don't actually really dislike it. I just remember when it was announced, and that is Winner, because there was so much salt when Winner was announced to be a thing. Yep. People were angry, people were hoping that Winner would just fail because it's a really ballsy name. And it's actually not the most ballsy name. Like, TVXQ and Shinhwa are both like, hi, we are gods.
Yeah, it's like, how can you get more than them?
Yeah.
But as we said with iKON, that's kind of YG's brand.
Yeah, it is. So it's not really bad, but it's also not really good. It's just intriguing.
Yeah.
Though I will admit I was one of the people being like, I want to see you fail just because of your name. And then I ended up liking the group and I was like, shit! I like them. I changed my mind. I like these boys. It's okay.
And the funny thing is, when you think about it, obviously, I'm guessing who's next win the show they were on with iKON.
They were on a show with them?
That's why they're named Winner, because I'm sure that it was rigged in the favor of Winner so that Winner could debut first. Because, let's be real, this is K-pop. Allegedly, we don't want to get sued. But if you think of it without the fact that it was possibly rigged, that means iKON could have possibly been Winner.
Yeah.
So it's not like the group could have even chosen themselves, you know? Like, sometimes groups have input into their names, but it's like, why hate on the group when they literally can't do anything about it? They just ended up winning an inter-company game show type thing, you know?
That makes more sense. One group I will never mix up is BTL, because I'm still salty that they were not called BLT. And in my opinion, their short-lived career had nothing to do with their music, which was actually, it was very okay. The problem was that they knew they should have been called BLT.
Well, what does BTL mean?
Beyond the limit.
Ah.
I know it.
Beyond limit the. There you go. I hope you're happy.
Beyond lime tea.
Ooh.
You know what? They could have had a tie-in. If they were called BLT, they could have so many different promotions and like advertisements with like just like food companies. And like they could be featured like on like menus like, ooh, the BLT special or something like that. They could do that. They could have so many tie-ins.
They could. But they didn't,
that'd be like
unfortunately.
Marketing genius. You think Blackpink is a marketing genius? No. BLT. Now that's where the money is. And that translates across language.
Okay. One that I've disliked ever since I heard the name is TXT. And not because of their acronym, although that, I'm pretty sure back in the day when texting on phones started, people used TXT as like a short for that, so they kind of hijacked an already present acronym. But that's not the issue here, although Big Hit has been known to do that. BTS, case in point. But formally, their group name is Tomorrow by Together, which I saw in an interview somewhere that they prefer to be called Tomorrow by Together instead of TXT, which is interesting. But that means that they come together under one dream in the hopes of building a new tomorrow. That is like a direct quote. But I don't care because I really kind of hate Tomorrow by Together. In my sense, it doesn't make sense. If you switched it to Together by Tomorrow, that makes sense. But Tomorrow by Together does not make sense. What does by mean? What is tomorrow? There are people who speak English in Big Hit. I know this. And that's the only reason I'm bringing this up. Because if you do not have an English speaker in your company, that's fine. You can make all the grammar mistakes you want. I'm not going to call you out for it. But Tomorrow by Together doesn't mean anything. I don't understand it. If they had switched it, if they had flipped, it would be fine in my eyes, but I just can't get past the nonsensicality, and it drives me crazy. I feel like I got really heated about that for no reason.
However, if they had done Together by Tomorrow, that could end up being really sad. Like, if like the group disbands or like if something happens to one of the members. So I prefer stupid over sad any day.
Just don't use it.
It's trying to be optimistic.
Which is fine.
And also,
yeah, that's completely fine.
There are worse names on this list.
I really don't like it. I haven't liked it since the beginning. And TXT is fine. Like, I will call them TXT. I probably won't ever call them Tomorrow by Together because I think the way the words are put together, they don't make sense. Obviously, they have a meaning, but that doesn't mean much in my opinion.
Speaking of heated, I want to talk about LPG. They were around a lot longer than I thought they were, but they had numerous lineups. And they were constantly going through controversy, either because of plastic surgery or because music videos were too racy, that sort of thing. But I mainly hate the group name because it's also the acronym for a measurement. So anytime I try to look up information or like trying to find like their music, I just get some science. I get some math stuff. I don't want that. I want a group. I want a shallow group that has subpar music, please. So that just... If you're going to do an acronym, like, just be aware that other people might have other uses already that might be way more popular than your group. That might come up in the search results first. Speaking of search results. So this is going to sound weird because you guys know I'm a big fan. Turtles, in my opinion, is also a bad name for a group. Not because it's technically bad, because like it was named after the main member who kind of had the shape of a turtle because he was a big guy. And so it kind of looked like it. And he was a very cool guy. But... the problem is that there was an old group called the Turtles. I say was, but they're still around. And they're known for the song Happy Together. And the problem is that the band tends to come up in search results before them, even at the height of the career of Turtles. I could never find anything outside of, like, actual Korean sources. Even to this day, I have to look up Turtles Come On in order to find stuff about them. In order to go down the rabbit hole, you have to do that. Which is kind of annoying because if you say Turtles Airplane... that also doesn't help too much, even though that was, like, their big hit. But also, like, the other reason why I dislike it is that the Turtles band was originally didn't have a U in their name. They had a Y. So, because they were trying to be like the Birds. So it's just, I have to either put the name in Korean, and even then, that might not get them, or I have to put a song next to it in order to get anything to come up with them. It's just obnoxious as a fan. So, yeah, kind of hate that.
On the topic of unsearchable K-pop names, 2020 has given us the girl group Episode and the boy group 2, spelled T-O-O.
It's pronounced T-O-O, which is still not good.
Yeah, but they don't have punctuations. They write it as the word too.
Exactly.
If you're gonna have it spelled or pronounced as BAP, you gotta have dots in between, you know? But yeah, it stands for 10-Oriented Orchestra, and both groups have really good debut songs. I liked both of them, but they're just impossible to search for. Because if you search K-pop episode, you're gonna get K-dramas or variety shows. And I don't want to think about what you're gonna get with two. So yeah.
So it's like, unless these groups really surpass their name, like BTS did, because before BTS, you'll get a bunch of things that stand for behind the scenes, right? But they surpassed the acronym BTS, which is crazy. My next one is Purity. Purity? I'm not exactly sure what the Hangul is, but it is a mix of the words pure and pretty, which is not bad in itself, like, just in general. But it is so annoying to say. Purity. Like, it's so annoying to pronounce, and it just doesn't actually sound pretty, in my opinion, at the end of it, when all is said and done.
I agree.
Okay, thank you. It's purity, which sounds like purity if you say it fast enough, which is fine, and I feel like would be a better actual, like, spelling of it, and it'll still make sense, but the way it is, I don't know. I don't like it, guys. I don't. And I don't know if I've ever even heard a song of theirs. It's just, I look at their name and I'm like, I don't like that.
Nope.
But that's just me being salty for absolutely no reason.
So, in my opinion, though, we have an ultimate worst name on this list. And I'm saying this because it's kind of a mystery. So, back in 2009, there was a solo artist who came out with 603 Factory, which was a wildly popular song, and it's a really good song. And the music video is great too, but we never heard from him again. He didn't really do any publicity, live stuff, nothing. His stage name was Again. So, when 603 Factory came out, it was a big deal. Like, every single K-pop fan I knew had this song in their playlist, because everyone loved this song. And also because, like, he'd been working with Suri and Soyeon, who were, like, big deal female artists at this time, too. So it was just, like, such a big deal. And the fact that it just disappeared with, like, no explanation, nothing, was just weird. But I think, though, part of also what made him stand out was that his music video and his lyrics, and even like the cover image for his album, was more adult oriented than teen oriented, which I think might be part of it. But it's one of those things where he just like disappeared, and the hard part is trying to find info about him, because if you try to look him up on Google with either his stage name Again or like the Korean Hangul version, you will just find everything else under the sun, nothing about him. I'd only found like old stuff from YouTube. It was like only like 3 videos of the same thing. But then Min found his page on Naver, which I hadn't been able to find, and it still doesn't give me any information. Nothing new. It does not help. I have not learned anything about him. So if you have any info, please send it our way, because we could find nothing. Yeah, now let's jump into the weird, right?
Yes, let's go for it.
The first group I want to mention is Cherry Filter. They're not an idol group, they're a band. But the reason why they're named Cherry Filter is that they kind of wanted it to be random. They didn't want a name that sort of made sense or like stood really for anything. It was just sort of random, which kind of matches them quite a bit. But I still like it. I remember when I first heard the band name, in addition to like watching like the music video, it's like, oh, this is something different. So it's weird, but I like it. It's meant to be weird. So another group that I did not remember until like a couple days before this was DNT. They were around like the 2009 to 2008 era, and I don't know where to put them on this list, but I considered them weird because it always felt like a strange name, either by saying DNT or Dragon and Tiger, which was what DNT was short for. It always just felt weird. Like the whole group just felt strange to me. The group itself is weird, I think.
Right. I see what you're saying.
I personally wasn't sure if we should talk about this, but Teen Top is a group. They've existed for a long ass time. And anybody who is like deep into Teen Top will probably know that it is a acronym. A really, really long acronym. But the thing is that we tried so hard to figure out where this acronym stems from. If it was Top Media just being weirdos and giving them a horrifically long acronym, which I didn't say what was because I don't like it. But the supposed acronym for Teen Top is Teenager, Emo Boy, Emotion, Next Generation, Talent, Object, Praise.
Which is kind of redundant.
Which is really bad.
Because emo means emotion, so it's emotion boy emotion. Like, why?
Yeah, but the thing is that I looked at a lot of old articles and I've yet to find any album description or article stating that this is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it might be, like, Top Media could have made this a real thing and just scrubbed the internet of it. That is possible. But I mostly see in old articles about Teen Top, they usually say that Teen Top means teens on top, which is possibly worse. Like their Facebook page, which is still active, is still called Teens on Top. And same with their original YouTube URL, also has Teens on Top. And it's oh so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a hoax? Is it real? It probably is real, because I also remember back in the day being like, yep, Teen Top is an acronym, that is just the law of the land. But if you know, if you can give us a source,
yeah,
please.
Because Min and I, we had been looking, the both of us were searching for it, and the only thing I could find was a forum, and I looked at the forum from the day they debuted, and I was scrolling through, there was a lot on it, because forums back in the day, people just posted and posted, man. But yeah, I went through a bunch of pages, and I only got like a week after their debut, but people were already talking about that being the acronym. So this is some stuff from the very beginning of their debut. People knew about it to some extent. Where from? The person on the forum didn't say, and nobody else said anything about it, but they all were just kind of like, oh, that's really weird. Even back then, people thought it was weird, thankfully. I mean, yeah, that says something. But yeah, it's an old acronym for sure. We're just gonna hate on Top Media for another second. Up Tension is a group that came out, I think, 5 years after Teen Top, and they are their little brother group, as they like to call them. And it partially means, like, tension up, like the tension is up. I think that's even their greeting. They say tension up tension, or whatever, like something like that. But there is also a possible acronym to this too. It is Unbelievable Perfect 10 Teenager Idol Open Now. What does that mean? Who knows?
Top Media, why do you do this?
I don't know why they do this. Oh.
And this is also one of the things that we just randomly found. We haven't figured out where this is from. Is this a joke? Is this a hoax? Yeah. Is Top Media the ultimate trolls?
Yeah. I know I came across, I think it was either an All K-Pop or Korea Boot article where they're like, weird things that K-pop acronyms actually mean. And they have both Teen Top and Up Tension, but they don't have sources. So it's like, how can I believe you? So just putting that out there, if there's no source on something, don't necessarily believe it to be true. And if this was like a normal episode, we probably wouldn't have even put it in. But since this is more of an opinion-based episode, and obviously, even if it was a normal episode, we would tell you if we know or not that it's true. But just letting you know, we try our hardest to be factual and have proper sources and citations for everything we do.
There's another mystery in K-pop that I would like to talk about, and that is Shinvee. Shinvee is one of the greatest mysteries, in my opinion. So the first mention of the name Shinvee that I could find was this HOT song, but, like, it didn't really mean anything. But then there was a girl group that SM had produced called Shinvee. It was very short-lived and has really disappeared off of the face of the earth. And I've tried looking for, like, what does Shinvee mean? What language is it from? I have not been able to find anything. And no sources to explain them either. So it's just one of those things where I have a name, but nothing else. Like, I don't know why that they were brought up in one group, became the name of a group, and then just disappeared, and I've never seen that word mentioned since. Like, I can only think that it's made up. Like, that's the best I can think of. Because I've been looking for years to try to find out what does Shinvee mean, and I have no answer. And the group is not around anymore. Mm-hmm. There are no answers. Let's also talk about GOT7. Very popular group. Something that's kind of weird about the name GOT7 is that JYP had been holding onto that name since the 90s. For those of you who are not aware, GOD was originally under JYP, and their original name was supposed to be GOT6, but then it was changed to GOD, obviously. But I just think it's interesting how it was about like 10 years that JYP was holding onto that name so that he could use the word GOT and a number. Like, does anyone have any opinions on that?
Well, one thing is their fandom name is I Got 7, which I think is kind of cute. Like, I got 7 members of a band, kind of. It's kind of weird, but it's also kind of like, as far as taking the group name and putting it into a fandom name, I think it's pretty okay. Because there's a few of those.
Yeah, that's not bad.
But yeah, that's my only take on Got 7. I have Goo Goo Dan on here, and I feel like this one was clowned on a lot when they first came out because it literally means 9 times 9. And why? I don't know.
Oh, that's pretty
Like,
funny.
they had 9 members at a time. One of the girls ended up departing from the group. But even then, what does 9 times 9 mean? I'm not sure.
It means 81. Learn math.
Well, yeah, but why? Why is it 81?
To me, Gugudan just sounds like babies talking.
Yeah, I can see that.
Same with Gigu?
Jigu. I don't know where you found that even. That's hilarious.
It's a relatively new girl group, I
New?
think.
Really?
That's one
No.
with the... Isn't it?
I don't think so.
2019.
Wow.
Their newest single, Moonlight. Yeah. The G part is like excitement. The other part is like the earth, a circle.
Well, the whole name Jigu means earth, as far as I know. Maybe there's another meaning for it, but that is the word for earth in Korean.
If you go look at their Moonlight album description, that says what the name is supposed to be, and I don't understand it whatsoever.
Yeah, it was a lot. Alright, so this section is called These Aren't Bad Till You Get to the Meaning, because the name themselves are not actually that bad sounding, and they can actually sound kind of cool, but then you get to the meaning and you are very confused as to why that was chosen for what the group name means. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is one that Min and I were discussing while we were making this list, and that is Focus, which is spelled capital F, period, capital C, lowercase uz. So kind of a weird... I always thought it was just supposed to be pronounced F-cuz, and I was like, I don't know what that means, but sure. But it might be an acronym for Century Ultimate Zest, which I found is also one of their releases. But I've also seen people say the F stands for and the CUZ stands for the word because, but that would make it for because, and I don't know what that means either. And some people were also saying it just means focus, and that's just a weird way of spelling it. But overall, if it is 4th Century Ultimate Zest, that is hilarious. Because zest is such a weird English word to utilize. It's not really used in everyday language, as far as I know, unless you're cooking or baking and you need some lemon zest. So to put it in a K-pop group name is weird.
Yes. Zest is the best word.
I've seen zest used so much here in Korea, like way more than in America. They like the word.
You can't talk about zesty K-pop groups without the group CPCG or ZPZG, a very short-lived boy group from like mid-2010s, whose acronym stands for Zest Play, Zest Grow. The zestiest boy group. It's just, it's wonderful, okay?
Which again, who's using the word zest in this day and age? I don't know.
Korea.
There you go.
A group that I want to talk about, this will be very controversial, but I'm correct. I'm just going to put it out there. Sotaejian Boys. The name. Yes, it technically makes sense because it's Sotaeji and 2 other guys. But here's the problem. Was about from the 1940s to the 1970s, it was very common for groups to be under the name of one person and then lump the names of the rest of the members together, such as Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, Johnny Maestro and the Crest, that sort of thing, to where it revolves around one person. And that was 100% true about Sotaejian Boys, which whenever people talk about Sotaejian Boys, they're like, oh, well, they left quite a legacy. But this is one of those things that, in the name of it, kind of showed where people did not pass on this sort of thing from them. That it was started by Sotaeji, he was the one who gathered the 2 other boys and put the group together, and he was the one who did most of the compositions, most of the producing of the group. Majority of it was him only. Although he would sometimes get like some input, but he was the main producer, the main runner. And then when he decided it was the end because he was done, he was the one who said, and I am disbanding the whole group. Like, he was running it from beginning to end. So it's one of those things where it's like, Yeah, it's just a fun name for a group until, like, you realize that the group really revolved around Sotaeji. When he said goodbye, it was the end.
Mm-hmm.
The last group that I want to mention, that it's not quite bad until you get into it. And I can say this because I'm a fan. HOT, one of the worst names, if not the worst name in K-pop, in my opinion. Now, the acronym itself, hot, they're an idol group. Not bad. That's not the part that's bad. The problem is that the name, it is short for High Five of Teenager. And while the words aren't the best, like, I get why it was chosen, it's a very confusing long-term name. The problem also is that they were not geared towards teenagers from their third album to their fifth album. Especially their fourth album was very heavily directed towards adults. So the whole teenager thing really was, like, it was more of a product of their debut than who they ended up being. They matured so quickly out of it. Like, yes, at debut that they were talking about bullying and stuff like that, but then by the third album, they were talking to Korea as a whole, not just teenagers. And then also, considering their ages, like, the baby of the group just turned 40 this past year. So that also, they're kind of out of it. And then also, here's the other bad thing. So there's this whole dispute over the name HOT and them trying to use the trademark, yada yada. So it came down in the courts that they can no longer use HOT, but they can use High Five of Teenager. I personally do not like the idea of saying, hey, I'm a fan of High Five of Teenager. So I have some suggestions that I came up with in less than 2 minutes to prove that it's pretty easy to come up with other ones, even if they're bad. This might be better. So my first one I have a suggestion for is Handsome Old Timers.
We're not that old.
I know. That's the thing with
Well, that's
K-pop.
not
Like,
old
even
cowboys.
people at the end of
Okay.
the 90s, they're only like 40 now.
I know. Another one. Honestly overlooked team.
It's better.
Better.
Bit long. But
Better. Instead of High Five a Teenager, we could have done the honest name of Horrifyingly Overworked Teens.
That's a bit too brutally honest for K-pop.
Yeah, but that absolutely would have been on brand for HOT. Last one, which was my personal favorite, Horribly Odd Truth.
That might be it.
Beautiful.
That one really sums up their discography well, in my opinion. So, yeah, HOT, please take these. Please don't go by High Five a Teenager. I love you, but you embarrass me so much. Anyway, Min, please take us to a more sane place.
Let's jump over to acronyms, because acronyms is a big, long-standing tradition of K-pop. Love them, hate them, they will always be a thing. What I want to talk about is ham. Not a ham sandwich, but ham. The very short-lived girl group whose acronym stands for Heart and Mind. Very good, very cute.
One that I want to highlight real quick is Newest, which stands for New Established Style and Tempo, which is pretty much what they wanted for the group, and even their greeting is Showtime, Newest Time, Urban Electro Band, Newest. That's what their introduction is. So yeah, it's interesting, but it's also pronounced Newest, so it kind of works. It works. I think it works.
So from acronyms, let's jump over to the trivia question of the day.
Recently, people have come to know the existence of this group because they were known as K-pop. But do you know what their group name was short for? If you do know, please message us on any of our social media sites, and we will give you a shout out in the next episode.
We've been 19 episodes, never given somebody a shout out.
Then nobody gets shout out. You don't get to be preserved in history, suckers.
So for today's song of the day, released on July 12th, 2012, Big Start debuted with the single Hot Boy from the single album Big Start, because we just gotta keep the theme of bad naming conventions. This song, Hot Baby, was produced by Brave Brothers. And let me tell you, it is not an instant hit as all their works with Cesar is. It's incredibly hard to explain this song because it's basically 2012 just compiled into one song. From the fashion to the extremely strange editing with laser eyes and like CGI fires, and the weird song shift from, oh, we are the sexiest boys to, no, we are soft pastel boys. It's an experience, and just go look for Big Star's Hot Boy, okay? And it ends with a big Yee boy. Tell me what you think, please.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, then please make sure to rate, subscribe, follow, and tell your friends about it. If you want to interact with us or just see more of our content, then you can follow us on Twitter at K-pop Sunbaes, or on our other social media platforms, which will be in the description. Also in the description, you will find a link to our master list of K-pop group names and their fandom names. Don't forget that our next episode comes out on July 20th, 2020. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Bye.
안녕.